Hello, welcome to the walkthrough of the Insight platform. We are logged into the account and we're ready to get started. So this is what you'll see when you log into your Insight account. It's loaded up with your most recent activity. So as you can see coming down here, there are some quick steps to jump right back into the last employees that you touched, maybe the last jobs you benchmarked, or of course some market reports that were last seen. So from here, really easy to just jump into either of those sections or go ahead and create a new report. Up towards the top, this green bar is the navigation center, so we can easily click into your workforce to see the information that's been loaded and what we're going to focus on today. So first things first, let's take a look at the employees. So here is where we have loaded all of the internal employee data so you can easily navigate through your current workforce. So as you're seeing, most things in the Insight tool are going to come in this grid. So we can scroll across to see all of the fields that have been entered, which include things like internal employee pay, any type of incentive, and some performance ratings. So anything in this grid view means that it can be sorted by selecting the header, and then it'll simply resort to what your desired filter is. Also, really easy to search in this function for a particular name or job title family if you're wanting to focus on a specific group of people. If you are wanting to come in and look at an individual profile, it's really as easy as clicking on their name to be pulled into their individual credentials. From here, of course, feel free to make any changes you feel necessary based off of those edit details. Great. So we've seen the employees. We can see where they are based off of the labor market column here, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So coming back to your workforce, we can jump right into the labor markets, which are going to be focused on what kind of data are we looking to scope to in the tool. So when we're thinking about your employees in the job, in this part of the tool, we're focusing on where are you competing for that talent. So in this case, in this scenario, we see that this customer has 2 office locations, one in Boston and one in Seattle. What's important to remember is thinking about what could be some other potential relevant data sets that you can scope to in the tool. So creating another scenario, thinking about maybe a department that's had high turnover, some jobs that are in demand, thinking outside of your organization to maybe some larger influencers in your area that might be competing for the same types of jobs. So it's really as easy as coming up to the grid and selecting Add to walk through adding a new labor market. So here we can see the different fields that we're going to be asked to enter. The first one is going to be a display name, which just needs to be unique. And then we can talk about the first piece, which is location scope. So you can look for data in 3 different locations, by a city metro, a statewide, or a nationwide scope. Next, you'll see the enter that specific city metro area. So if we're thinking about this scenario, and we know that our jobs in this case are in Seattle, what we're wanting to think about here is maybe some bigger fish that are in the area. Who would be competing for a hot job? So down here below, we can see what would a potentially different organization type be. You know, in the case that maybe you're competing with something other than a for-profit company, you can select those options here. In the industry piece, this is where the tool will function like a keyword search. So you can just start typing to see what would be a category that you might be competing with for your job. So in this case, we have a lot of subcategories that we could be potentially competing for a specific type of job. So this is where you have the option to be as specific as you'd like, or if your job could be at any of these kind of competitors, we can choose the larger category and that way capture a broader data set. So the next question is going to be focused on that average size of competitor. So in this scenario, maybe perhaps we're thinking about someone like a network engineer or a systems administrator. In the Seattle, Washington area, it would be important to know in your area the competitors for that type of talent, such as an Amazon, a Microsoft, or a Google. So in this question, we get to really focus in on a larger competitor of that nature. So enter whatever number you're most comfortable with, and feel free to use this graph if it's helpful. Essentially, this graph is here to show you how size of competitor is an influencer for pay. So simply hovering your mouse over these bars will show you how that would potentially shift as a competitor gets larger in this case. So more questions allowing us to be more specific with our search for data. One is the annual revenue of that same competitor. So here you can enter the dollar amount of the typical revenue held by an organization for this specific segment. So this is one that if you know the answer, feel free to enter it. If you don't, we can leave it blank. In the case that maybe we don't know the answer to what would a typical 10,000 feet company take home, we can leave that option open to leave it more broad. There is one more page, and it's going to be focused on some more specific questions again. In this case, thinking about a specific filing status, if that were important for your job, or a stock exchange listing. Now we'll go ahead and come back up to the taskbar to show you the jobs. So from your employees' internal titles, here in the tool is where we have captured all of your unique job titles. So just like the grid in the employee section, you can sort by whatever field is most applicable for you, and the system will reshuffle that. You can also see up above, you can add to your sort list by selecting these drop-downs. So there's two views in the area. Right now we're looking at this by the standard view, which is showing you a concise view of columns. If you'd like to go ahead and take a look at this and review the data by its full details, simply selecting this box, now you can see all of the fields that have been entered for these positions. So you can quickly come in and see what are my education levels, what tasks have been assigned to these jobs, and quickly come in and make sure that these are all benchmarked accurately. So just like in the employee section, anything that you see in the grid can be selected and downloaded. Great. So from here, we're ready to go ahead and review the market data. So from those jobs in those titles, here we can see what are those market reports for our jobs. In the grid, as you scroll over, you will see your job code, the labor market where this information is coming from, and then the distribution from the 10th to the 90th percentile in the market for that position. The system calls out the 50th percentile as a default setting as the target. So that is what's being pulled out in the farthest column. That's showing you what is this total cash comp at target. But this is just one view of the data. Up above the grid is what I call the mode dropdown. So by clicking into this rectangle, now you can see what are some different options of market data that you can take a look at, whether it's an hourly rate or a base pay. Perhaps a total cash, base bonus, and commission is important to you. By simply selecting that mode, the system will refresh, and now you can see, in this case, what would be the hourly rate as opposed to the salary. Every job, aside from this grid view, has a detailed view, and we're seeing that in this column here that says Report Details. By simply selecting the orange link that says View, we can take a look at the different top are the different types of compensation for each type of job that they're reporting in the market, and we can see that up above. Every report will also have a rating, which is essentially a measurement of how consistent or how variable is pay for a position in the market. So hovering your mouse over these bubbles will simply tell you how PayScale is measuring that. Down below, here we have the job summary of how this position was defined, as well as all of the inputs and how important are they to the pay for this position. On this sidebar that says report details are some additional links to comp influencer charts. By simply selecting the links, you'll notice that you'll be able to see a table and a graph for those different influencers. This is a report that can be downloaded out of the account simply by clicking Summary or Custom Report to show you an additional report. Right now, we are viewing this data just by the job itself, not incorporating any internal data into this analysis. In order to switch the view, it's really easy to incorporate your internal employees' information by selecting the link that says Employee Name. This will pull your internal information into the view, so now we can review it to show you an analysis of how your employees' pay is comparing to the market. As you scroll over, you'll notice a column that includes your employees' names and IDs, as well as this green column which calls out their internal employee pay. And here is that range distribution from the 10th to the 90th percentile, pulling it a little bit tighter to show you in a few different ways how the tool is doing an analysis to show you how close or how far are your employees from their target. So that is the basic navigation through the Insight account. I hope this is helpful.